Hi everyone. One of the oldest and most beautiful Swedish votive ships originates from Storkyrkan, the great church, in Stockholm. This historic ship, known as the Storkyrkan votive ship, is now part of the collection at the Nordic Museum, catalogued under inventory number 27384. It was gifted to the museum on July 30, 1880, by P.N. Bergstrom, a furrier by trade. According to records, either Bergstrom or his father acquired the ship during an auction where Storkyrkan sold off some of its older belongings. In 1937, this remarkable votive ship was transferred to the care of the Swedish National Maritime Museum, where it remains catalogued as item STEP 169. What remains of this historic ship is only a damaged hull. Yet, even in its incomplete state, the ship tells a story of elegance and craftsmanship. Its slender lines, modest yet refined carvings, and richly decorative paintings suggest it was once a magnificent vessel, a proud ornament for the church it adorned. Experts believe the ship was crafted during the early 17th century. Its design shares similarities with English Tudor or Elizabethan ships of the era. Features such as the robust wales along the hull, interrupted by gun ports at the stern, and the painted ornaments and arcades closely resemble these English designs. The fore and aft castles, along with the sloping decks reminiscent of the 16th century, further emphasize this connection. These sloping decks were particularly common on pinnaces and remained in use until around 1700. However, some unique features point to a later Dutch or Baltic influence. For example, the ship's stern, with its transom and fuller quarters, reflects these regional styles. Unfortunately, the hull has lost its figurehead, which was once attached to the forecastle. This figurehead likely had an elongated and sharply pointed shape, almost resembling a spear. Additionally, the rudder is missing. The ship's rigging is entirely gone, and reconstructing it with accuracy based solely on the hull's design is impossible. It is assumed the ship carried 3 masts, as was common after 1600, rather than 4, which was typical of earlier English vessels. The foremast and mainmast likely carried topsails and smaller topgallant sails, along with a foresail and mainsail. The mizzenmast probably supported a lateen sail and a smaller topsail above it. While it's possible the mizzenmast carried 2 lateen sails, this would have been an older feature and is considered unlikely. The ship may have also had a yard on the bowsprit with a single sail, known as the sprit sail. However, whether it featured an additional mast at the bowsprit end carrying a topsail, the so-called sprit topsail, is uncertain. This configuration only began appearing around 1600. Even in its incomplete state, this ship provides an invaluable glimpse into the maritime craftsmanship of its time. Its historical significance and unique features make it a fascinating relic of naval architecture from the early 17th century. The 3D model of this historic ship was produced by Adam de Kaminski for SMTM in 2023, preserving its legacy for future generations to explore. This particular model represents a late 16th century galleon and is one of Sweden's oldest surviving votive ships. It is also the oldest ship model in the collection of the Swedish National Maritime Museum. Despite its extensive damage, much of its decorative artwork has remarkably stood the test of time. The painted designs on the hull's sides remain vibrant, showcasing intricate imagery, including women playing musical instruments, mythical creatures, monks, and even the depiction of a black man dressed in European attire, an intriguing detail that reflects the diverse influences of the time. This extraordinary votive ship bridges the past and present, offering a glimpse into the artistry, craftsmanship, and seafaring traditions of the late 16th century. Votive ships, or church ships, are an enduring testament to the intertwined history of faith and seafaring. These intricate ship models, often displayed on church walls or suspended from ceilings, were not mere decorations but deeply symbolic artifacts. They represent the hopes, fears, and gratitude of sailors who braved the unpredictable and perilous seas, especially during the 16th century when maritime life in the Baltic was fraught with danger. The tradition of votive ships has its roots in the promise, or votum in Latin, made by sailors to God. When storms roared and waves towered like mountains, these men turned to prayer, vowing to offer a gift to the church if they survived. For many, fulfilling this promise meant commissioning a model of the ship that had carried them through the ordeal. These models, lovingly crafted and often adorned with fine details, became offerings of thanks and a plea for continued protection on future voyages. In 16th century Sweden and the Baltic region, seafaring was both vital and hazardous. The Baltic Sea, known for its treacherous storms and icy winters, was a critical trade route. Ships carried goods like timber, tar, and iron, resources in high demand across Europe. Yet the very lifeline of trade was fraught with danger. Navigational tools were rudimentary, charts were often incomplete or inaccurate. For sailors, their lives depended as much on their skill as on divine intervention. Churches became sanctuaries where these men sought solace and protection before embarking on voyages. Inside these sacred spaces, the sight of a votive ship hanging from the ceiling served as both a reminder of God's mercy and a symbol of the perils at sea. These models varied in size and design, often reflecting the ships of the era. Some resembled the galleons of the Elizabethan period, with towering masts, intricately painted hulls, and detailed rigging. Others depicted smaller, local vessels used for fishing or coastal trade. The Elizabethan galleon, a common inspiration for votive ships, was a marvel of its time. These ships were robust, built to withstand the open sea while carrying heavy cargo and weaponry. Their design included high fore and aft castles, making them distinctive in appearance. The ships were not only instruments of trade but also symbols of national pride and power. Votive models of such vessels often captured these details, serving as miniature tributes to the engineering and craftsmanship of the era. Life aboard ships in the 16th century was grueling. Sailors endured cramped conditions, meager rations, and constant exposure to the elements. Diseases like scurvy and dysentery were common, and the risk of shipwreck was ever present. In the face of such adversity, faith became a cornerstone of survival. The promise of a votive offering was not just an act of gratitude but also a way to seek favor and protection in a world where human control was often at the mercy of nature. Even today, some of these ancient votive ships survive in Swedish churches, silent witnesses to centuries of maritime history. One notable example is the ship model that once hung in Stockholm's Storkyrkan. Believed to date back to the late 1500s, this model, though damaged over time, still bears traces of its decorative paintings, including mythical creatures, musicians, and other intricate details. It offers a glimpse into the artistry and cultural significance of votive ships. In preserving these models, we also preserve the stories of the sailors who risked their lives on the Baltic Sea. Their fears, hopes, and faith are encapsulated in the delicate wood and paint of these ships. They remind us of a time when the boundary between life and death at sea was razor thin and when faith was as essential to survival as skill and courage. The tradition of votive ships may have waned, but their legacy endures. They stand as symbols of human resilience and the enduring bond between seafarers and the divine. Through these models, we glimpse not just the history of maritime trade and exploration but also the spiritual lives of those who navigated the world's most dangerous waters. This is the story of how church ships saved sailors, both as physical tokens of gratitude and as enduring symbols of hope and faith. Thanks for watching.